I am already like predisposed to be disappointed by what people are going to say. Unfortunately, I'm sorry that I'm conditioned that way, but I'm set up for disappointment.
I think that psychologically started when you left Opera Box Score as a main host. So
It's all been downhill since then.
On the Dallas Opera Network, you're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm your host, George Cederquist, joined by Weston Williams and Ashlee Hardgrave. All right, in Chalk Talk, tenor Aaron Short joins the show as our guest, along with some hack called Tobias Wright. Anyway, we look at some of 2021's biggest sports stories and imagine their opera parallels, plus 2-minute drill. What do Joni Mitchell, Bette Midler, and bass baritone Justino Diaz have in common? Well, you'll have to listen to the podcast version to find out. Luckily, if you're watching on Dallas Opera Network, you just subscribe to the podcast on Stitcher, or you just favorite our show on Apple Podcasts, and you just use technology in ways that I don't really get. Weston Williams in the 3 spot, typically. Tonight, you're the top of the bill, young man. How are you?
look at me go. All I had to do was murder Oliver and stuff him in the closet. And I have so much power now. I'm on vacation, George. I'm in New Jersey. I'm just, I'm planning a meeting up with Snooki later.
I hope you have a great week. Ashlee, also, we missed you as well in the recent times.
Did miss you as well. I was also on vacation, also out east, but now I am back and now I'm here, and it is even hotter here than it was where I was. So, hooray!
There were some mic problems this week that.
Well, I don't know if I would actually call them mic problems. I think it was an amazing hot mic moment. So on Tuesday of this week, the Baltimore Orioles played a game, and the MLB coverage for the network was an all-female team, and it was the first time that it's happened, which is amazing. And there are some dugout mics that were there for the Orioles, and Anthony Santander got caught on this hot mic saying, "Oh, this is great." Once he was told that there was an all-female team, "This is great. Women should be making more of a place for themselves. They have to keep carving out spots for themselves in this industry." And then he said what was maybe my favorite part, which is they're already smarter than us anyway. So let this episode of Opera Box Score be my official marriage proposal to Anthony Santander. I think I could be a really good baseball wife. Balls in your court or on your field. Let me get my metaphors right.
Tobias Wright, look at this guy, back from the dead, one of the co-founders of Opera Box Score, dear, dear friend of mine. Toby, you look great. Background's a little blurry, but the rest of you's just fine.
That was intentional. I didn't want you to see the blank walls in my home office. Also, Weston mentioned something about putting Oliver back in the closet. And let's just be honest, that's never going to happen. And then to stay on the baseball trend, the United States Olympic softball team had a walk-off home run against Japan. This was hit by a young woman named Kelsey Stewart, who hails from Arkansas City, Kansas. Do you want to know who else hails from Arkansas City, Kansas? Me. So
I'm shocked.
So the glow up from tiny little Ark City to Olympians winning in Japan and being, disgruntled former radio hosts. It's pretty substantial. So thanks for having me back, George. It's great to see everybody. Love this.
Great to see you. Aaron, great to have you on the show as well. Another Kansas City Chiefs fan in the house.
There could never be too many.
Did you steal that hat from Toby?
No,
at your weekly meeting of the bearded tenors who love the Kansas City Chiefs Club?
Oh, well. Patrick Mahomes Club.
Well, we do all love Patrick Mahomes. It's very, very true. No, Same. I've had this one for a while. It's one of my favorites. I wear it all the time.
Typically, we jump right into the Chalk Talk. I want to take a few minutes, Aaron, to have our listeners get to know you. So, not so recent relocation to Chicago, but you came from Portland. And what were you doing there?
Well, I was doing a young artist program in Portland from 2016 and 2017. It was right when they shifted to a brand new summer festival season, and so there was a lot of big changes happening. But I really enjoyed my time there. It's a wonderful, amazing city, and I would love to go back someday for sure.
Fantastic. Portland, of course, going to come back at the end of the show in the 2-minute drill. Aaron, you are now in the doctoral program at Northwestern. Last year was your first year. I'll bet that was weird.
It was extremely weird. It was, not a lot going on outside of Zoom. I got to know maybe a handful of people super well, but not the rest of it. I was really missing that feeling of being in a music school and being in a music building over Zoom. But I got straight A's in my classes, so I can't be upset about that.
Honor roll.
That's right. I'm on the honor roll, baby. So I'm
taking you to Dairy Queen for a treat.
That's right. And next year we're opening back up for everybody. So I'm excited to actually be in the school and get to know everybody and really be a part of the program. Can't wait.
Fantastic, man. Well, great to have you on the show. And of course, great, Toby, to see you again as well. Let us talk some opera.
Chalk Talk on Opera Box Score.
The whole point of Opera Box Score, when we first conceptualized it back 6 seasons ago already, was to draw these parallels between sports and opera. And when you break it down and when you get granular, it is a very fine web. The fanaticism of the people that love both these art forms, the athleticism of the people that create both these art forms. On the show this week, we take a look at 5 sports stories from 2001 that allow us to draw parallels between sports and opera. I'm going to kick it off. This is one of Oliver's stories that is well known now in sports, but that he really brought to the table a couple weeks ago. Naomi Osaka, tennis player, who had really taken the media to task about their aggressiveness, about how post-game they are in your face. Of course, this is not specific to tennis. This happens in all of the major and minor league sports as well. It got me to thinking, if you're Christine Gerke and you come off stage, and hey, look, we all have bad nights, right? A lot of us have bad days.
I don't think Christina Gerke has bad nights.
Yeah,
George.
no, she really doesn't.
She don't.
She needs to get that slander off of here.
I think she. Hey, it happens to the best of us. She comes off stage. Someone shoves a mic in her face. Is like, hey, look. So this is a role that you have struggled with in the past. Tonight has probably not been one of your best performances. What is your plan to make amends for that? And how do you really see the rest of your assignments in this season panning out?
You know what I think she would do? I think she would post that picture of herself that she did on Twitter a couple of weeks ago where she was peering over the glasses. I think she would just do that to the reporter. They shouldn't ask the question. It's still garbage, but she would just peer over those glasses to the middle of their soul, and they would, like Lot's wife, just pillar assault, just crumble right there.
The opposite, of course, is the Met in HD broadcasts where folks come off the stage and like a mic does get shoved into their face. And it's these softball questions of like, well, how did you create the role of Violetta? And then it's completely nonsense answers that have no meaning or value whatsoever. Like, should we
Spicy hot takes from George today.
Like, should we be scrutinizing our performing artists more? Should we just be leaving them alone? Like, how do we show the work behind the scenes, Toby?
I think it's fair to ask questions about performance. And in opera, because the scope isn't as intense as they are in sports, it really doesn't. And like the Met and HD broadcasts, right? Those are softball questions. It's geared toward making everybody have a great time with production. But I think it'd be really fair to have, imagine Polizzani walking off stage and somebody gets to say, it sounded difficult there. Talk to us about the challenges. What were you thinking? What's going through you through your technique there? How are you navigating that in this moment on this random February night in downtown Chicago when it's 20 degrees? I think that'd be phenomenal to hear. And I think it would draw people in because it pulls back the curtain without this. It's scrutiny without negative connotation, I feel like.
I do think there are, like, even with those softball questions, you do have opportunities for surprises. I remember when the Met did the William Kentridge production of Lulu, for example, there was I believe was it Marlis Peterson who was doing Lulu?
Sounds right.
I think that was right. I'll look it up in a second. But they were doing like the usual, Met thing of being like, here's what this is. We know it's atonal. Don't panic. It's fine. Lulu is a femme fatale. And there was just this moment where Peterson just like zeroed in on Peter Gelb and was like, no, she's not. She's 16 years old. It is much more complicated than that. This is something that needs to be appreciated on a deeper level. And it's really interesting if you watch like the earlier interviews from that show where they're really selling the, this is basically just Carmen, but sounds scarier, all the way to like, this is a really deep, moving work of art. And that transition in those changing how the audience saw it, I think was something that was really, really valuable and something you don't really see a lot in opera. And maybe that's a cue we can take from sports. Although I don't know how much those sports interviews actually help the athletes.
Good call. Bad call on Opera Box Score.
Good call, bad call, something good or something bad for the week that is related to opera or music theater, possibly not even at all. Weston Williams, you get to go first.
Oh, you're actually going to let me do it? Wow, exciting. Well, I've been listening to the recently released 2019 production of Akhenaten, which has just been, we had Anthony Roth Costanzo on. We had, oh God, I'm blanking. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Zachary James.
Franklin.
Aretha Franklin, we had her on. No, Zachary James, we had him on the show too.
Yes,
truly an extraordinary performance, and I was almost wondering if it would still hold up on my little laptop screen compared to the live and HD screens, and it does. It's just an amazing performance. If you missed it live in HD, go find it. It's out on digital. The audio recording is out, and the video is as well, and it's truly an amazing production.
Ashlee Hardgrave.
I'm going to give you advice on how to make your life better in 3 words. Watch Schmigadoon immediately. Schmigadoon is a new series. It's on Apple TV. Find a login, borrow one from your buddies. Don't illegally download because that's bad, but find some other way to watch it. It is, the premise is Cecily Strong and Michael Key get lost in what is basically an homage to 1940s movie musicals. And there are immediate musical theater references from the first half of the 20th century. So you don't have to know Carousel or Brigadoon or the Pajama Game, but if you do, you're going to like it that much more and it's going to be that much funnier to you. The writing is very smart, the music is very smart, the choreography is smart, all of the actors are brilliantly cast. Watch it, you will not regret it.
Tobias Wright.
I cannot retweet and hashtag like that enough, Ashlee, because Schmigadoon is hilarious. I do think if you haven't seen musicals and aren't a fan, you would be utterly confused, but still enjoy it. So yeah, my good call is a conversation that Will Liverman had with Laura Downs. This is on a link from NPR. Great conversation. And obviously Will Liverman, friend of the show, I believe him to be one of the greatest singers of our generation. History will record that. Little blurb here from the article with a link to the interview. But next season, Will stars in the first opera by a Black composer ever performed at the New York City Metropolitan Opera. A dream come true for him. And for many singers before him who never had that chance. Will's also writing his own opera, The Factotum, a joyous reimagining of Rossini's A Barber of Seville, set in a modern-day Black barbershop on Chicago's South Side. Will's incredible. Conversation's phenomenal. Really excited for him and glad that he's getting this publicity on NPR because more people need to know who he is and what kind of artistry exists.
Aaron Short.
Well, to stick with the Apple TV theme and the fact that my name is Team Ted Lasso, there was a recent article that just came out that was talking about how in comedy right now there's a big shift from the cringe comedy that was kind of big with the the Office and the weird awkward manager to the feel-good protagonist like Ted Lasso. And if you're going to get an Apple TV subscription to see Schmigadoon, get one to see this show as well. It just came out with their 2nd season. I haven't started it yet, but I've heard it's amazing. And I'm curious to see if maybe this kind of feeling will maybe start dipping into other entertainment fields. Maybe opera. Who knows? We'll see.
We are not sponsored by Apple TV.
Non-spawn.
But an opera sitcom on Apple TV would be pretty swell.
Absolutely.
My hot take, I was actually on a YouTube series over the past week reviewing Chicago.
Look at you on the new
I watched
media.
it.
Oh my gosh, Ashley's already seen it. I will put a link to that on the show because everybody likes a good Chicago hot dog. That's it for this week's edition of America's Talk radio show about opera. Our announcer is Norm Woodel. He's at normwoodel.com. On Facebook, search for Opera Box Score. On Twitter and Instagram, we're at Opera Box Score. Help us deepen the bench of listeners, liking and sharing our social media posts. Again, email us your hot takes, operaboxscore@gmail.com. Subscribe to the podcast on Stitcher. Just favorite the show on Apple Podcasts. The views and opinions expressed on Opera Box Score are solely those of the show's creative team. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of the accounts of this show without the express written consent of Opera Box Score is never as good as Simone's Vault Score. Our creative consultants, Oliver Camacho, audio and video editor Weston Williams. For your co-hosts, Tobias Wright and Aaron Short, I'm George Cederquist, asking you to continue the conversation about opera as teams from Sweden and France make you take a hard look at yourself. We're back with an all-new show next week, plus you get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and more fourth-place finishes. Join us